Bono's vocal, his falsetto became so beautiful that we wanted to make sure we got that on the record. So
it's interesting. Bono's singing from Unforgettable Fire to Achtung, very, very different. So Unforgettable Fire, you didn't have those, really the kind of low singing like you do on With or Without You, right? Using his low part of his range. And then his upper part of his range, he'd sing in full voice. And then Achtung, he's singing in falsetto. I mean, he's really using different timbres in his voice. It really developed in those, what would that be, 7 years from 84 or so to 91 or so.
Yeah. People change and people evolve, and we always had a bit of a joke that people, some folks said, he's changed, as if that would be bad. Of course I've changed. That was 7 years ago. It was just very nice to see the evolution in people's skills and musical knowledge, really. Because put yourself in their shoes, you know, they started their band as teenagers, so they never went to music school. So they didn't have the advantage of having studied theory, and probably to their benefit. But it was a nice part of our work relationship because I was able to remember parts, and, you know, as I hear these things, I say, oh yeah, that's me, you know, and the Edge singing the background vocals. So we're good part singers.
So Flood worked on this, right?
Yep, Flood worked on that. Really
Did Flood work on Joshua Tree as well?
Yes, he did, yeah. Great engineer, and really the studio rats, let's call us. It's a four-part, Flood, you know, Edge, and myself, because Edge gets in there too, you know. We had a reputation for coming up with kind of a new guitar sound for every record we worked on. And so when Achtung Baby came around, we had this, I think it was a Korg A3, had this bow, had that, called an envelope follower, sort of an auto wah. It was one of the settings in that new box. We were pretty excited about it. But Edge is a real, he has a scientist in him, so he's quite good at coming up with new sounds. And so we always had that in the room, like, what are we going to do now to break to the next sonic barrier?
Would he use the Korg, what is it,
SDD 3000. That's the echo machine that Edge went into after the Memory Man.
Okay.
When they got started, he was just using the Memory Man.
And then he started using that when on
Unforgettable Fire.
Unforgettable Fire, okay.
Yes, he already had that rig. In fact, it was Edge who introduced me to the SDD 3000. I still use it now.
Yeah.
Because it does quite long delays. It's good for triplets.
Yep.
Even on a slow song. And then it had capacity to remember settings. So it was a very useful box. So Edge always had the echo thing going, since even long before my time. And then we just kept going with the excitement of making guitar sound discoveries, you know.
Would the four of you get together and just be at the studio without the other guys there a lot of time?
Yeah, there'd be some of that, of course, especially in Edge like late nights. So we had a lot of late night guitar sessions. But some of them would just be, well, what about the chords, you know? Should we try it this way or try it that way? And I say, well, you know, the song One comes to mind. That we're batting around chord sequences, and then ultimately I said, well, Edge, what if we hook these two together? And, you know, so we'd have these kind of conversations, because when the singer comes in, he wants to get juiced up by something.
Right.
It's not going to be drugs. So you have to have a fresh musical component to get him excited to pick up the microphone. And so that was the responsibility of the science room, let's call it. It was up to us to come up with special surprises for Bono to work off of.
I'd like to take a second to talk to you about this channel. This is actually Rick Beato 2. I've had it since the beginning of my main channel, and many of you are not subscribed. As a matter of fact, 87% of the people that watch this channel regularly are not subscribed. So I encourage you to hit the subscribe button on this channel and on my main channel. This will help me get even more of my dream guests and help continue to grow both channels. Thank you. Tell me about Bono as a singer in the studio. When I watch live versions of him back, if I watch, watching the Rattle and Hum movie, for example, I saw him sing back in the, back then live, and he was such a good live singer. His pitch, time, tone.
Yeah.
I mean, really incredibly good singer.
Yeah. What can I say, man? Such a singer as Bono remains an inspiration to me. But he's a great guitar player. Did you know that?
No.
Oh. He'll pick up a guitar and play a riff, all the wrong notes.
Okay.
But the phrase will be great. Play something like this and be completely screwed up. It's like, what? But the phrase will be great because he's a singer. Uh-huh. So he's going to be in front of 60,000 people. What's the top line and what's the phrase going to be?
A thing that is really amazing about him that I've always thought, he has incredible variety in his melodies. He does not repeat melodic ideas from record to record, from song to song. He has very sophisticated melodies and does not have licks that he just kind of falls back on.
Yeah, well, melody is that's an interesting subject matter. Obviously, we touched on it earlier on when I talked to you about the penny whistle and slide guitar, a single note. In regards to those fellas in Dublin, they heard all those great traditional Irish singers. And even though they weren't making that music, they heard it and they respected that a lot of greats had come before them. Black Velvet Band. Mm-hmm. She wore that black velvet band. And it was completely rock and roll as a delivery. And I thought, whether you're making that music or not, if you came up listening to those pub singers,
that's right,
and delivering those melodies with that intensity, that's going to get into you beyond the specifics of the music. It might get to you in terms of a communication.
One of the things that I like to ask people is, what makes a great melody? What are the elements of a great melody?
Some of the great melodies have been the simplest. And we love them for that. Quand le soleil dit bonjour aux montagnes, for example. It's really a hymn, isn't it? And I like to reference Killing Me Softly as an unusual and great melody.
Yes.
Trying to sing that.
That is such an odd melody, beautiful melody.
And I'm glad that Lauryn Hill did a version of that with the Fugees. And it was a nice reminder about how melody cuts through all eras, really. Even if we've lived through a decade of non-melodic music, it's definitely going to come back again.